Gentlemen, hello and welcome to the CSL. I am Joe. I'm joined here today by Fear Dragon. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing quite well, Joe. Getting to cast some CSL, and today is going to be a special day for me because it's going to be, I think, my very first Brood War commentary ever. I've never done a Brood War commentary before, so this will be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're basically an MLG no-scope 420 player at the game. So I'm really excited to see you get a chance to flex kind of your chops here, show off your game knowledge. But in all seriousness, I think we're both going to have a little bit of fun. From what we've read in the script, it sounds like we may both be a bit more experienced than the players. So it's going to be a wonderful chance to look smart or very dumb. Maybe it'll prove us wrong and break the meta. But the game's a lot of fun to cast and play, so I'm excited for the season.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a Protoss versus Terran, where we have AleC, also known as Rydia, facing off versus SoSin, who in the game is going to go by the name Ebola. And both of them players from UCSD, that's UC San Diego, for those who are not familiar with the California school.
All right, so I think without further ado, it's probably time to start hopping into our game. And, of course, in traditional StarCraft style, the very first thing we're going to have to do is introduce our players. Spawning here in the top left-hand corner, in the teal trunks, we have our Terran player, Rydia.
And over in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the purple Protoss player. Give it up for SoSin, going by the name Ebola.
Ebola, of course, Protoss, Rydia being Terran. This is probably the matchup I'm least knowledgeable about. Back in the day in Brood War, I never played an IC Cup, I never got quite that serious, but I did play quite a bit of Melee and 2v2s in Battle.net, and I played a lot of Terran, and I played a decent amount of Zerg. Protoss was never a race that I really got. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. And so it's in all honesty, it's the matchup that I struggled with the most. Just either Zerg or Terran versus Protoss. Their timings felt a little bit funky, so I'm glad I have you here because you're kind of our resident Protoss expert. That's the race you played, like always, right?
Yeah, that's the race I played in Brood War since way back in the day. It's the race I played in vanilla StarCraft. It's the race I played in StarCraft 2. But the PvT matchup is actually, in a lot of ways, it's very, very simple because it revolves around 4 units. And everything else is sort of an additional add-in that kind of gets added in to bolster and change a little dynamics. But for the most part, it's for the Terran going to be about vultures and siege tanks. And for the Protoss, it's going to be about zealots and dragoons. So the way it kind of works is, in theory, is that the vultures are there to help deal with the zealots, because vultures have the spider mines that they can be well microed and all this other kind of stuff. They can basically just pick apart the zealots from afar, as well as just tank for the siege tanks. The zealots actually want to get on top of the siege tanks and be able to get some damage done. So what ends up happening is the vultures are there to try and prevent them from doing that. But at the same time, the Protoss has the dragoons, and the dragoons are there to deal with the vultures. They push back those vultures, give those zealots the space they need to climb on top of those siege tanks. Siege tanks don't do so well versus zealots just because, well, splash damage sucks, Joe. It really, really does hurt. Friendly fire splash.
Yeah, it sounds like an interesting matchup because, I mean, vultures and siege tanks is an interesting comp, right? Vultures are like an infinitely microable unit almost. It's kind of like a ground mutalisk in the extent that, like, if you control them right, they should almost never die. And then siege tanks are kind of the opposite of that. It's all about positioning and decision making. But in the moment, you don't have a lot of micro that you're actually able to execute in kind of a minute-to-minute basis. Whereas the Protoss army, it's going to be more mobile, right? The Protoss, perhaps especially at this lower level of play, this is not going to be your flashes, your J-dongs, your larvas. It's going to have so much mobility, and to me that might kind of throw the matchup into more of the Protoss' hands, whether or not they're able to make mistakes, because if they're not, they should at very least have map control and have just kind of the ability to muscle in. And the first Zealot is going to walk in here as I'm saying this. The Marines out, a couple of
Yeah, Zealot can be really, really scary in the early game of Brood War, but it needs to be able to close the distance. And that's kind of where the Zealot is having the most problems, closing the distance. But once it's there, down go a couple of these SCGs.
Yeah, it does look like with these additional Marines coming out, they're going to be able to clean it up. The SCVs tank a bit. Workers in Brood War are a little bit tougher than kind of their counterparts in StarCraft 2, if you're more of a StarCraft 2 fan. This Zealot is going to get right on top of these Marines, and he should be able to trade out somewhat cost-effectively if he can clean up that second one. But actually, really nice hold out of Iridius so far, losing 2 SCVs and a single Marine to 2 Zealots. That would put him on top by 50 minerals, if my math is correct.
Yeah, and I'm really surprised to see just continuous Zealot production from that gateway. Instead of adding on any Dragoons, Dragoons actually do fairly well versus Marines, especially if you get at that early Dragoon range. There's a lot of really quick one-base all-in from both players that involve that, but you can see the proxy gateway is just moving a little bit further out, and behind us, going straight up to the Cloud Council, and whoa! Super fast quick pickup to the Templar Archives. This might end up turning into a DT rush.
Yeah, it's definitely a funky position here. Ebola is starting to get more of a beachhead, I think, by having the second Zealot join up. But at this point, Rydia's army has reached kind of the critical mass where he can safely defend against these early gateway pushes. And he's doing a really nice job of pulling off the exact amount of SCVs he needs to kind of fend this off without overcommitting and taking his economy. And I think at this point, Rydia should be pretty far ahead in terms of resources traded. This tank is going to be out. It's going to add some additional DPS from the back. And Ebola's going to have to back off, and he proxied his gateway in a somewhat vulnerable position. He poured all that money into Zealots, and he really doesn't have anything to show for it.
Yeah, SCV comes in over here to Ebola's side of the map and is going to be getting some scouting information. So far, just harassing those workers, but I don't know if he's actually been able to scout out and confirm that Templar Archives put it up in the top left-hand corner of this base. He doesn't actually see that. He may end up delaying getting up all the necessary things he needs to get at that ComSat station. He's going to need some form of detection if there are going to be DTs on the way, and oh man, here we go.
Yeah, the first DT walking out on the map. There is not a lot of detection. We do see the Vultures. There's a chance that they can see, of course, the trademark Shimmer, and I think the Shimmer is a bit easier to see in Brood War with the 2D, kind of just how it interfaces. In some ways, it's cleaner. If he's paying attention to these Vultures, he should see it. And the detection of the spider mines, such a huge game changer. If he was seeing that, even if he just heard your units under the attack and he looked over, he should know what's up. And it looks like he has units hold positioned on the ramp to buy time.
Yeah, but DTs do a substantial amount of damage, 40 damage per shot. These spider mines really cannot stand up to him, but the whole position, like you said, can be very helpful over here. Listen, the DT realizes, wait a second, there's actually no spider mines up on the high ground. So for those who don't know and have been wondering why these spider mines are actually just killing the DTs, it's unlike Widow mines from StarCraft 2. If you're a StarCraft 2 fan, they do actually just go after close units. So these DTs gonna be taking a substantial amount of damage as they try and move in through the spider mine kind of layout over here.
Yeah, I believe it's 3 spider mines kills 1 DTs. Do you know if that's correct off the top of your head?
You know what? Sometimes, Joe, as a Protoss player, it feels like 1 spider mine will kill 20 DTs. So I actually am not 100% sure, but I do believe it is like 2 or so.
Okay, so we have
I think it's actually 1.
Yeah,
I believe that it is 1.
Spider mines are funky, right? Because unlike a Widow mine, a spider mine can lock onto a unit, attack it, and hit it, and still not do its full damage. And I think that's probably a bit unusual for people that are, used to StarCraft 2, where if a Widow mine attacks a unit, it's gonna do its full damage load. And instead, they kind of, all these CCs have chip damage on them. They've all taken whole damage, but it's gonna be up to Rydia to try to hold this off. He's floating his engineering bay down.
Oh! Nice little snipe off with the CTs. He looks like Ebola is just doing a really nice job trying to prevent his opponent from moving down this ramp, even picking off the Vulture, picking off the spider mines as they're being planted down, not giving them an opportunity to fire. This is some really nice micro from Ebola while hitting up the expansion behind it.
Absolutely. The spider mines are continuing to try to do their best to do damage. The detection they offer can allow some brief shots to go off here, but they need to hold their ground. And Ebola still has the low ground here. The DTs are going to be denying any kind of base landing. These spider mines, beautiful bait with the SCV, trading 1 SCV and a spider mine out for 2 DTs. I think any Terran is going to be happy with that trade.
Yeah, still can't land the command center though. That 1 DT is still over there, and we do finally have that ComSat station being thrown down in the main base of Rydia. So we'll eventually be able to scan and pick off these DTs the old-fashioned way. Meanwhile, though, We did finally have Ebola knock down that pylon wall-in, allowing him to move out onto the map with the Dragoons if he so chooses to, but typically in PvP, the Protoss player does want to be up on bases. It's actually very, very important that they're just staying ahead in economy, because Terran Mech can be very cost efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. Once you can get that fortified position in, so far it doesn't look like we quite see that out of Rydia, but he's now at least solidified his 2 bases. He can start producing SCVs out of both of these command centers. He has 2 comset stations up to help deal with the DTs. That's going to offer a lot more scans. And comsat stations in Brood War, of course, the only thing they can do is scan, so it's not like he's having to make these difficult decisions between dropping mules or something like that and, you know, making that trade-off. Those comsat stations are just there to reveal the DTs.
Oh, I love that we have right now Rydia sending these vultures around the map, scouting for potential hidden bases or even just kind of weirdly taken bases, because Brood War is very much a game where hidden bases can really, really mess with your opponent. It's especially with the kind of way that Fog of War works, making sure you have an idea of where all those bases even are is one of the first hurdles, making sure you know the map.
Yeah, and in some ways the DTs have kind of forced Rydia to like cede any kind of strong map control to his opponent, but allowing these little raiding parties of single vultures to go out still allows him to have access to the information that normally you would see in map control. These DTs are going to start trying to ping away at the vultures, but the concept stations do have scans available. Looks like he's going to chip away at it with the spider mine, but not willing to drop the scans quite yet. And it looks like both players are looking to move out on the map a bit here.
Yeah, we do still need some of those observers to come out from Ebola, because until the observers come out, spider mines will be causing insane amounts of trouble, I think, for Ebola, because just you can do some really, really nice micro with the Dragoons. You can pick off and target fire down individual spider mines right when they pop out before they actually attack and save your Dragoons, but it's definitely not easy to do. It's one of those easier said than done things. So usually you want to get up that observer, you want to kind of lead the charge with it so you can use your Dragoons to pick them off from afar.
Yeah, I agree. It's just something that he's missing in his army right now. It's really important. We do see he has the robo facility out. It's just a matter of when he's going to start that production. He's continuing to make DTs, but there's so many spider mines at this point. It's just a dance of death to try to get around him. So far, doing a good job is Ebola, but Rydia is starting to be really well fortified. He has great map vision, and I think our Terran is really starting to pull ahead here.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, the Terran player is looking really, really strong. The big thing to take away from this, though, is that Ebola has been spending his money fairly well, but the kind of weird thing about it is that how fast this guy is teching up right now. He's gotten up a Stargate, he's gotten up the Observers now, with the Observatory, I think, finishing up. Or he has the potential to get up Observers at the very least. I think, yeah, the first one just popped out. But he is rushing for Arbiters very, very quickly. Only now adding on some of those additional gateways. He was only at 2 gateways for a very long time, getting up to 3 bases before really expanded that out. So this could lead into a fairly interesting kind of attack with a big recall. Maybe the main base completely shut down the production for Rydia.
Yeah, that is one strategy we could be seeing, and it looks like he's got production going on his Stargate, and that is about it right now. So he's funneling all his resources into that move. He has the first observer. He's going to move out. He can start cleaning up those spider mines, and that's going to be absolutely terrific for him to be able to have kind of that freedom to move around the map without worrying, am I going to get pegged with a huge amount of splash damage? He's got this DT at the front here, trying to get a little damage done, but the scan comes down, it's cleaned up, and our Terran Rydia here is just so well fortified at the front. I think that kind of backstab type attack with the Arbiter we were talking about earlier could prove to be a really intelligent strategy if that's the path Ebola wants to choose.
Yeah, Arbiters are going to be coming out, and this is where things definitely get very, very dependent on how the engagement ends up going. Of course, Rydia still has all these siege tanks and everything, but having some nice recalls behind enemy lines, or even just getting some nice, I guess not stasis traps, as that's the StarCraft 2 counterpart of it, but you end up having stasis abilities for the Arbiters to patch these siege tanks, completely take them out of the fight for a bit. That really can be a big game changer, especially with, I mean, I like the Widowmine, or sorry, not the Widowmine, the Spider Mine positioning right now. from Rydia, and I like the supply depot and the missile turret over there to just mess with his opponent and also pick off observers. But this is still a fairly open area. I think this Zealots may be able to charge in over here without the Vulture support. This could get really, really scary for him.
I wonder if, okay, we have a big Vulture drop coming in here. It's going to be pushing inside the main mineral line. Probes are pulled off the line. Pretty fast reaction here from Ebola, but Rydia is really starting to put the hurt on, and it looks like these Vultures are going to go basically uncontested until the next round of Zealots pops out.
And the Zealots will trigger with Spider Mine, so do slowly but surely get some damage. Definitely not the most costly. I'm sure that Rydia will be pretty happy with this, but at the same time, those Dragoons slowly pushing their way across the map, or at least opening up some of those positions in the middle from where the Widow Mines are. I also just noticed, I think there's only probes on gas at the natural right now for Ebola. Small little thing.
I do think with that attack, it did some probe damage, probably not as much as Rydia would have liked, but seeing that Arbiter could be a bit of a tell. You know, he's going to know where his opponent is focusing that gas, what his advanced tech choice is going to be in, and he can start to make steps for that, because you don't want to get caught with your pants down against spellcasters. I think we've seen with his DT Rush, Rydia is a player that likes to introduce chaos, and or rather, Ebola likes to introduce chaos, and Rydia is just going to have the chance to kind of fortify against that. And that additional information, I think, makes his position a little bit better here, even if the Vulture run-by didn't do what he wanted it to.
Okay, well, additional scans keep popping on down, and Rydia just trying to stay in the know right now, but all of these Vultures making their way across the map. The double medevac drop moving along the south side. It looks like Rydia is getting ready to move in with some harassment at the absolute perfect time, right when his opponent is getting ready to just head out across the map and try and do something.
Looks like he's going to be unloading on the low ground here while he fortifies it with Spider Mines. A couple of siege tanks coming out. They are going to be moving into that siege tank mode. That's going to force all those probes off the line. Pretty quick reaction here from Ebola as his force moves out onto the map. Doing a really good job of paying attention to multiple places at once. It's so easy to get pulled apart in this game, but the Arbiter is moving in. There is a missile turret ring here, and it looks like the Arbiter may just go down. The mass recall gets off. A bunch of these Zealots are in the production line. What is there to contest this, Ruby?
Oh, well, there are a lot of Vultures and siege tanks back at home, but they have to make it through this Terran Sim city that's honestly going to be acting a little bit against him and a little bit in his favor. The Zealots going to end up derping out quite a bit, but still getting able to, or finding quite a few kills on siege tanks, getting kills on just random buildings around, and pulling his opponent all the way back in, while he can try and deal with that harassment that's going on naturally.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to see a bunch of these Zealots finally cleaned up. They managed to get some damage done cleaning up a few of these buildings at the outskirts. The missile turret ring was reset, so Rydia, if he's paying attention, may be thinking about rebuilding that. Another Arbiter attack could seriously catch him with his pants down. Perhaps multiple recalls. Perhaps we start to see shuttle drops. We'll have to see what his choice is. But as I say all this, Ebola is moving out on the map for a frontal attack. He feels he's pulled his opponent out of position, but there is still a lot of siege tanks here.
Yeah, and the Zealots are charging in from behind a little bit. The Dragoons try and get in on top of these siege tanks to counteract, I guess, the lack of Zealots right now, but it's just not enough. The siege tanks push this army back easily, and poor Ebola is going to be running back with his tail between his legs. He's lost so many workers earlier on at that natural, and that fourth base has not really been saturated. No shuttle has actually dropped off any workers at that island base, so his economy is not looking as ideal as he would like it to be. He's also still not even mining for that natural gas geyser, so half of his gas income is just gone right now.
Yeah, I think he may have pulled off a bunch of his probes when those siege tanks sieged up, and maybe just lost him, you know? You can't hit F1 and find your idle workers in this game.
Yeah, I think that he actually did end up losing a lot of those workers, mining at the mineral patches as well as that gas geyser, like you were talking about that. Now, funny enough, there were only 2 probes mining from that gas geyser anyway, so he didn't have optimal mining in the first place, but alright, here we go. Oh, Ebola has his army very clumped up right now. He's finally got the Arbiter over here, but the Science Vessel is going to be revealing all of these cut-off units. While the Zealots charge forward to their death, they're kind of going after the Vultures. That's the tank.
Yeah, and there's just not enough to try to target down those Science Vessels. The final Dragoons are falling. There's still a few units trickling in from behind. But the death push from Rydia is coming. And I think the supply tells the story here. The Terran has the ability to march into his opponent's base. Ebola is desperately cranking out every last Dragoon he can. He has a small hit squad at the front. If he wants a chance to see, maybe he can try to target down those science vessels. But this is just absolutely brutal. He's losing inch by inch, and every inch is so painful when you're up against a mech army like this.
Oh man, unsieged siege tanks fighting against the Dragoons. I mean, this is not StarCraft 2. Unsieged siege tanks are considered really not that great, but in this situation, when you just have overwhelming numbers, you can afford to do stuff like this and force out the GG from your opponent.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was our first game, and thank you, of course, to Twitch for helping to make that game possible. Our only sponsor for the CSL, and our favorite sponsor. We don't need no one else. If you're watching this on Twitch and you don't have an account, be sure to go ahead and make one. Tell them the CSL sent you.
Indeed. We are going to be hopping into game number 2, and for those who are familiar with the good old classic, it's going to be Fighting Spirits for game number 2. Still continuing the PBT. This is a best of 3 as well.
Yeah, best of 3. And this is a bracket style tournament. This is not kind of the typical CSL. We have teams and they play in a regular season and so on and so forth. This is a 1v1 tournament. And I think one thing maybe we didn't do a great job of talking about in the run-up to this game was these guys are schoolmates. And, you know, Brood War is kind of an older game. I wouldn't be surprised if these guys are used to playing each other.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes when you're playing with you're against your teammates and everything, or you're just looking to try and get better, you aren't playing a lot versus your teammates in the CSL. This is true for Brood War, this is true for StarCraft, this is true for, hell, it's true for Dota, it's true for all of these different things. So I am really interested to see where the rest of the series is going to go, because, yeah, you know what, that first game definitely started looking pretty strong toward the end of that game for Rydia, but I do think that there's a lot of chances for Ebola to bring this series back.
Absolutely. I mean, they looked fairly evenly matched, considering that both of these guys in their profile said they are new to StarCraft Brood War. I was really impressed at the level of play we saw. They may be new to StarCraft Brood War, but I don't think they're new to RTS. And with that said, we are hopping into our second game here on Fighting Spirit. This is the CSL with StarCraft Remastered, spawning in the top left-hand corner, spawning in the top left-hand corner, playing for UC San Diego. We have our red Protoss player. Give it up for Ebola. And his opponent, spawning down in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, it's the brown Terran player. Give it up for Rydia, sitting up 1-0. It's best of 3. Well, I am very curious to see. Okay, I have lost my supply panel in the top right-hand corner, and I don't know how to bring it back.
I believe that one you can bring back with. One is Alt-E.
Alt-E. Okay, thank you. That did work. So that's very good for everyone to be able to see here. These spawns are a bit interesting, right? Vertical spawns here on Fighting Spirit. It means the players are going to be closer to each other. And if Ebola wants to go for some chaotic type play, it might be a bit more effective, right? Because he has a significantly smaller rush distance than the cross spawns we saw on the last map.
Yeah, there's definitely that, as well as I think just the moves like the Arbiter will possibly be a little bit more effective, but we can actually see that in this game, we do have a fairly quick Nexus coming out, like a little bit actually before the gateway as well, so Ebola is really just looking to go for a very economic focused opening, as opposed to the last game where he opened up with a almost proxy gateway, looking to get hyper aggressive with those early zealots, and lead into the GT opening. So we might see Ebola just play a little bit more standard this game, and that might set him up a little bit better for the later stages of the game. And at the same time, you have to also remember that Rydia is going to have less things in his face, so he might also be able to play a little bit more his own game.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes in terms of that. Both players kind of just feeling each other out, checking all the spawn locations on the map. If they've been playing on the ladder, they're going to know, obviously, all the spawn locations at this point. I think it does take you a while in Brood War, right, with the hard fog of war. I think that was probably the biggest adjustment going from StarCraft 2 for me, just learning, you know,
Learn the maps.
Yeah, because when you look at a map, I can hop in any map in StarCraft 2. Now, obviously, we're blessed with seeing all the possible spawn locations, but I can hop in a map, and I can probably deduce the spawn locations. You don't get any kind of hand-holding like that in Brood War.
Yeah, that is one thing I would actually... If there was one change I'd like to see moving in from StarCraft 2 to Remastered, it would just be the fog of war becoming a little bit lighter. I don't believe it makes any differences. Outside of just you have to know the maps right now. It's kind of like that semi-unnecessary barrier to entry.
Yeah, I agree with that. That was, and I mean, I did play a lot of Brood War growing up. I remember saving up to buy the expansion pack. I probably had vanilla StarCraft for 4 years before I ordered Brood War from Battle.net. Came in the mail, believe it or not. But that was like the only thing to me that felt jarring going back, is that hard fog of war it's tough because the minimap is black. Both of these players seem to be showing a good knowledge of the maps. Definitely going to be helpful in terms of, you know, winning this game, winning all the money that is allotted in the CSL. I believe the Brood War tournament is $5,000 spread out among individuals, not shared among teams. So it's a pretty huge prize pool.
Yeah, that's actually bigger than most even pro prize pools for just Brood War these days in terms of the foreign scene, i.e. not the Korean scene. So really, really solid. Okay, Widowmine actually going off on these Zealots. I like that we end up having Ebola trying to split up one Zealot to try and handle the Widowmine. Takes out another one of the, sorry, the Spider Mines. What am I saying? Takes out another one of those Spider Mines and pushes these Vultures back. Yeah, the Zealots are going to end up dying for their trouble, but I mean, shutting down the number of Spider Mines his opponent has is also sort of a nice thing.
Yeah, although I do feel it kind of disables him in this next step. With this single Dragoon, if he had still had 2 or 3 Zealots alive, he could have done a lot of tanking with them and kind of enabled a lot of that crazy Dragoon micro that you can see in like the ASL and all of that. And without the tanking Zealots, it just becomes a lot easier for, you know, Rydia to deal with that and just get right on top of those and shut them down. And we can see that he had to go home as a response, and now Rydia actually feels comfortable moving out on the map.
Alright, Vulture's going to try and move in a little bit, or at least set up some more of these Spider Mines here to prevent his opponent from moving out quite as easily. Now, it's also worth noting that Rydia is going to be keeping a very close eye on that third location of that SCV, but Dragoon's trying to get some damage onto these Vultures. Vultures going to retreat over toward that third base location, maybe to try and lay down a couple of those Spider Mines, prevent a base from being taken over here until detection is there, or I guess, or potentially until you just decide to sacrifice a unit to clean up those Widow Mines, or Spider Mines. Man, I'm never going to get used to that, Joe.
Yeah, that's okay. At least we haven't said stalkers yet, right?
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, Rydia taking command of the map a lot earlier, I think, than last game. Cleaning up those Zealots in kind of a faster way has allowed these Vultures absolute freedom of movement. And they're just moving out. They've laid out these Spider Mines. They do offer a minimal amount of vision, so they almost kind of act as an early detection net, like a sensor net. He gets some vision out on the map. He's blocked his opponent's third, which is really nice, as you mentioned. And right now, Ebola's sitting on basically pure Dragoon with just a couple of Zealots for tanking. Probably not feeling all that comfortable moving out, knowing about the high numbers of Vultures patrolling around.
Alright, interested to see where things are going to go. By the way, if you do want to really quickly check the Discord chat, I think that we may be able to pull up the Units tab still with a different overlay that might be ready.
The production tab?
No, the Discord chat. If you want to take a look at that, but In the meanwhile, we are going to be seeing these vultures moving along the right-hand side of the map. Ooh, I like this. Is really cool. Looks like they are going to be splitting up. Rydia did a really nice job in the previous game of just keeping an eye on where his opponent may be taking expansion, sending those vultures in every single which location. And once again, even sending one of those vultures over to the right-hand side bases, confirming the top right that there's nothing over there, and just making sure there's no hidden expansions coming down, because hidden expansions in Brood War or it's remastered, whatever have you, are really, really scary strong sometimes as a potential tactic. But all right, scan comes down. He sees the shuttle, so he's got to be careful about where he places those siege tanks if he decides to move in at any point. But still, it really has to build up that siege tank count for now.
Yeah, looks like the Dragoons gonna be stepping out into the map here. Are they going to be moving across things? Let's take a look. The first couple Spider Mines do pop out. There's a shuttle here to offer some additional micro capabilities. And it looks like a lot of damage here from Ebola.
Yeah, Zell's being dropped on top of the siege tank to try and force some friendly fire slash him. Look, there's some doors on the top. The siege tank do a really nice job trying to focus fire down the Dragoon specifically, but at the end of the day, the siege tanks do end up falling. The Zealots and Dragoons lead house, and there's just very, very little left back over here. You see tanks on the high ground, though, shelling away at these Dragoons. The natural base is going to start to take some substantial damage. Meanwhile, oh man, more Zealot drops on top of these siege tanks on the high ground. The Zealots eventually get cleaned up by the Vultures, and siege tanks can re-siege, but this command center looks like it might end up falling over here without any repair. And yeah, it's going to go down.
Denying that natural, a huge deal. Ebola cleans up, and he knows the damage he's done is pretty great. He's going to back off a little bit. He doesn't want to overcommit here. It's so easy to turn your winnings into a loss if you just throw away all your units. But he's maintaining this great mass of units. A barracks is going to float down here to try to offer some vision. And these siege tanks are going to be able to start chipping away. But Ebola just retreats. He knows he's done the damage. He's content to allow Rydia to kind of lick his wounds.
Yeah, and I really like that he's now looking to try and take a third base. Ebola is that is. As that's just going to put him a little bit further ahead and also secure his potential lead, because now moving in once again may be a little bit difficult. He's sacrificed a lot of his Zealots. He has to wait for that next round of production, and a lot of those Zealots are popping out way back at home. But in the meanwhile, that siege tank count is going to get much, much higher. Just doing small little things like this, picking off one of the siege tanks with the Zealot drop from the shuttle. Once again, gets a second siege tank as well, and even keep one of those Zealots and the shuttle still alive. Man, we still need to see some missile turrets or something coming down over here from Rydia, but I just don't know if he has the economy for it anymore.
Yeah, it's a really brutal position to be in, because every kind of decision you make has to be guided by the fact that you lost that natural command center. Or Goliath is going to step out here, start putting some chip damage into the shuttle. A little bit of Brood War AI derping out here, but the shuttle manages to make it out with 6 HP.
Yeah, very close to death. A nice save on that is it will regenerate those shields and potentially be useful later, just for a small little bit of damage. But Goliath, even just forcing out that Goliath in his already pretty precarious economic situation right now for Rydia, that's really, really nice. He did not want to have to make that. It cuts into his siege tank production, it cuts into his vulture production. It really just messes with him. Even a Wraith was actually made to make matters worse.
Yeah, that's not what you want to be spending your production cycles on here. He has 3 factories. It does look like he's producing out of all of them, so at least he's being able to spend his money as Rydia. But Ebola feels that he can go for a push here. The Spider Mines are going to clean up a lot of these Zealots. The Dragoons are offering fire from behind, and it actually looks like there's not enough left here from Rydia to contest this. The low ground is almost completely cleaned up. 2 siege tanks trying their best to pull back, but GG is called, and we're going to a 1-1, Fear Dragon.
Yep, we end up seeing Ebola tied up with a very, very nicely timed attack as he gets the cleanup on the first round, the first wave of attack, and then the second round he gets the full blow through into the natural, gets his way into the victory position. So well done by Ebola. Definitely looking forward to seeing how game number 3 is going to go, as I think I agree in game number 1, or after game number 1, I definitely was under this impression, I'm not entirely certain if Ebola is really going to be able to contest with the late game macro of Rydia, but I think he showed that he actually has some pretty decent macro if he gets well set up in the early stages of the game to move into that late game stage macro.
Yeah, he played it out really well, and I believe you have the final map. Do you know what that's going to be?
It is going to be Python.
Python.
Another one of those classics.
Yeah, I think the map pool is going to be, it's geared towards the maps everyone knows, right? Even the more casual players, to try to lower that level of accessibility and just get everyone in that wants to play, because the CSL is of course an open tournament for any college student, and they want every college student playing.
Yeah, I mean, even to this day, I think that before CSL and everything, a lot of people would say, okay, well, let's 1v1, let's go. Okay, what are the maps? Fighting Spirit, Python are definitely amongst those maps. And of course, just like you said, going with the current ladder maps makes a lot of sense. It makes things a little bit more welcoming for a lot of people. And I'm interested to see where things are going to go on this map. This is, for those who don't know, Fighting Spirit, or Python, at least what I believe is the case, is that Python is actually very much modeled a lot after the old school map Lost Temple. It's kind of like the corrected competitive version of Lost Temple in a lot of ways. Because Lost Temple used to have a lot of other problems. There was a high ground above your natural, and there was also little cliff faces inside of some spawns, not all spawns, some spawns, main bases, where you could drop siege tanks and just siege up your opponent's main base. Like that, there were problems with Lost Temple. Python was kind of a new take on it, I believe.
Well, spawning here in the top right-hand corner, we have our yellow Protoss. It is Ebola.
And down on the south side of the map, we have the red Terran player. Give it up for Rydia.
This is 1-1. Both of these players going to be doing their best to win, doing their best to make it to the next stage here. And these guys have both showcased some pretty cool micro. I think Brood War is a cool game. It almost reminds me of, oh god, I'm going to get you going when I say this, but Smash, in the sense that players that maybe aren't at the top level can still do a lot of things that look really cool. And I think there are a lot of games where it can be hard to do that. You can play well, you can feel solid, but Brood War, I think, just based on how complex the micro mechanics are and how kind of raw the game feels in a way, even mid-level players, people that aren't at the top, can do really cool micro tricks that look awesome. And I'm glad to see that we've gotten both of these players a chance to kind of strut their stuff here and show off what I think is probably the best game.
Yeah, 100%. I think that Brood War is very much a game that allows players, like you said, to kind of strut their stuff, even in some of the lower league or lower levels of play. But a lot of that is just because I think Brood War is structured in a way such that small plays and there are so many small opportunities to bring the game back in your favor. There's almost this idea of that I think exists much less in games like StarCraft 2. Ooh, got under the pylon wall off. This is very interesting. But in a lot of games like StarCraft 2, oftentimes when you start falling behind, it feels as though even if you started playing perfectly from that moment on, it feels like it's out of your grasp. It's not going to be possible to bring the game back. But I think it's something that's actually very much not true. Whoa, what was that? You had a building cancel over there.
Yeah, it was a supply depot. Do you think this is a fake cannon rush? And like, Rydia is a little bugged out right now. There's no forge down.
Well, you have to remember that in Brood War, supply depots cannot lower themselves. If you want to raise up and allow yourself to escape out of the map or out of your main base, you actually have to raise up your barracks, where you're not going to be producing out of it for a little bit. We do have a Marine finally coming out, but this definitely gets a little bit weird. And oh, the Marine pops out on the... Okay, well, actually, hold on. Put the whole wall in. Maybe I'm speaking a little bit too soon. Not used to seeing Protoss plus Terran walling in together in conjunction. So the Marine can actually escape out of there, as can the Zealot. The Zealot is already getting substantial amount of damage done.
Yeah, Rydia really wants to be targeting down the Zealot, not this pylon. I'm not sure what kind of his game plan is here. The second Zealot is coming down to join up with the fight. And this is starting to get a lot of mass here. As one Marine is cleaned up, the damage output of the Terran is lowered. These Zealots are dancing over the SCVs. They do manage to get one to the SCVs. And now with another Marine popping out, Rydia feels confident sending them back to mine. But so far, this seems like really nice harass out of Ebola.
Yeah, it's kind of the cause of a lot of early Zealots. Again, like you said, some good damage done, but these Zealots are starting to trade out less and less cost efficiently. I like the fact that the factory production has been delayed so much. Finally, the Vulture is picking up on the last Zealot, or I should say, what was going to be the last Zealot. This is the last Zealot that's making its way across the map, but yeah, I like the fact that he just reconsiders that.
I was about to say, if he hadn't turned around, I was going to say, you know, I think Ebola Zealot Harass has done well, but we would have seen in 2 games he's overcommitted. Even there, I think maybe the 3rd Zealot was a bit of an overcommitment. I don't think it actually did anything other than, you know, force out some APM from Rydia. And now Rydia feels comfortable moving out with his own Vulture. It's his turn to get some map information here. And there's not actually anything at home for Ebola. This Vulture is going to go basically uncontested in the mineral line. And Probe's trying to catch Vultures. Good luck, buddy.
Yeah, this is more than just a little minor problem right now, but the Probe's actually getting some good damage done. Nice micro from the Vulture now is going to be able to try and pick away at these workers, denying all mining. Remember, these Probes are not transferring to a safe, natural base or anything. They are just, there's just no mining happening right now for Ebola.
Yeah, this is really nice with this Vulture. It's actually going to manage to snipe off some Probes here. But I think the key element here is not so much the probe damage, which is fairly minor. It's just the delayed mining time. They are long-distance mining, so good on Ebola to try to make the best of a rough situation. And this Zealot is now doing a good job of zoning with the probes. But, oh man, that's a good amount of lost mining, and that should help Rydia make up for any kind of losses.
Oh man, and he gets some oh my god, he gets some spider mines down. These are huge. He does manage to pick off the Zealot as well. So with 1 Dragoon on the way, okay, there's a Dragoon making its way over the main base. It will be able to pick off this Vulture finally, but even a couple more spider mines are laid down. He's trying to bait the Vulture, the Dragoon in. He almost gets it, but not quite enough damage.
Yeah, but that was still a very cost-effective trade. And Vultures, it's just a mineral unit. It's not like he was investing his gas tech, his first big tech unit. It's just a mineral unit. He's able to get all those probes out. And he's got another one coming just, okay, now there's 2 Dragoons out, so this should be a fairly easy hold here for Ebola for this second one if it decides to poke in or try to run by.
Yeah, gotta make sure those Dragoons are very well positioned though, because if this Vulture gets an opportunity to run on by, it's gonna be a huge headache once again, because we've definitely seen that Ebola likes to play it a little bit greedy after that kind of sort of opening. Oh, Widowmine gets sniped off. Nice pickoff over there from these Dragoons.
Yeah, there's 2 more Vultures coming up to join this, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, when Ebola is forced into kind of a defensive position, you know, just the way the map is and kind of the choke here, it's not like he can corner the Vultures like last time. So if Rydia has some clever micro up his sleeves, which so far he has shown us, he can kind of pick away at these Dragoons and try to set up another run-by for himself.
All right, with so many of these Vultures and these spider mines being laid out in a nice little concave, just ensuring that he's going to know about any potential move-outs over here from Ebola. This really does give total map control right now to Rydia.
Alright, that's the 4th Dragoon coming out. And Rydia is going to take a peek at that, say, no thank you, sir. Back off a bit and continue trying to build up his forces at home. Now, I think it's important to note that the Protoss is actually behind in terms of bases here. The Terran getting his 2nd base out ahead of time, largely due most likely to all that denied mining. It just slowed Ebola down so much. You can look at his minerals and see he's absolutely broke here. And Rydia actually has a couple of tanks out already. So once that research finishes up so he can get them into tank mode, it's going to be just a really tough beachhead to break.
Yeah, this is getting really, really scary right now for Ebola. He needs to be able to get up a 3rd base soon, or get up some kind of miracle tech, or get up Reavers. He's got to do something right now, because the longer this goes on, the higher that siege tank count is going to grow. And right now, he's just been producing off of 1 gateway. He's getting up he's gotten up a 2nd gateway now, so he can start getting out a few more units. But even that Zealot count's going to be very low. He's so far away from Zealot leg speed. He's so far away from a observer. There's so many things that he needs to actually make this move out work. And I feel like maybe his best chance is, again, just grabbing a 3rd base.
Yeah, we're going to see what decision he tries to make here. It looks like Ebola is mostly content to sit back. He does have a probe out on the map. And, I mean, he can start to take some risky moves, right? When you're behind... Oh, getting this probe caught is absolutely painful. Rydia just abusing his map control here. And I think, like, we've seen Rydia kind of hit his stride in game number 1. It seems like he's a really tough player to deal with once he's hit his stride. He's got good multitasking. He's got great map awareness. Things like catching the probes, the Dark Templars. Like to me, that's the strong suit of Rydia that we're starting to see play out here as we learn a little bit more about these players.
Yeah, absolutely. And I even just like the fact that he is a player that also takes safety precautions. He learned from that last game, hey, the power of those shuttles and the Zealots can really turn a potential engagement around. So he gets up the Goliath a little bit earlier this game, just ready to deal with the shuttles. And continuing to scout around in the corners of the map, laying down some spider mines over in the top left-hand corner, potential third base location. Has another spider mine and another potential third base location. These are the kind of moves of a player that knows, hey, this is a game that can oftentimes reward players that take risks. And I'm just going to make sure that I cover all my bases. This is the sign of a player that really knows how to maintain a lead.
Yeah, absolutely. That first observer is going to be out on the map. That's going to grant Ebola some map awareness, some map vision. He obviously doesn't want to get caught out here, but he is able to clean up those spider mines, and that's a nice first step towards getting out onto the map. It's still a long way to go from here till feeling comfortable moving around, but having this just kind of basic Dragoons on the map, observer bouncing around here, should give him a little bit of comfort and maybe make this game a little bit less scary for him.
All right, observers dancing around the map, trying to find any additional spider mines for those Dragoons to go after, while the vultures, I think, are loaded up inside that dropship, or are going to be loaded inside that dropship that made its way around the right-hand side of the map. Here we go. It's going to be some harassment. There is one Dragoon already sitting inside the main base.
Yeah, but can it deal with 4 vultures is the question. They start to unload. A second Dragoon pops out of that gateway. There's 2 firing in from either side here. 2 more running up from the back. It's going to be on Rydia to try to do as much damage with this drop as possible. He's doing a really cute job with the micro here, but it looks like a fairly good cleanup, and that was a good hold from Ebola.
Yeah, he loses a lot of workers, but of course he does at least get the cleanup over there and forces everything back. Kind of unfortunate for him that the dropship ends up surviving, as that's going to be another pain to deal with later on. The Dragoons in the center of the map also still trying to dance around, finding any additional spider mines, but really just still total map control right now going to Rydia. Even though I would love to see some more spider mines, I think that's the only kind of like light criticism I have, is that I'd love to see some more spider mines laid out across the map, because so many of them have been cleaned up so far. And those are important for maintaining that map control.
Oh god, this is just brutal for Ebola. Moving out with the shuttle, he's trying to take a third with the ninja tactic, and he just sees the vultures dropping spider mines, and he's like, alright, I'll try to find another third, but there's spider mines at nearly every base. Maybe Ebola can have kind of the cognition to realize those westernmost bases are going to be the least well defended by spider mines. It's all going to come down to the gamble here. What does he want to do with this shuttle with the single probe? That's his way out of this 2-base death trap he's stuck on.
Oh my god, is he about to try and take his opponent's island base? This is a bold move to do, Joe, versus a Terran player that can build a command center in their main base, as we see Rydia doing, and then float it over to that expansion.
Yeah, it looks like this is his game choice. I mean, I bet he doesn't expect it. That's
so it's not so much about whether or not he expects it. Well, wait a second, he's moving back. Looks like he's abandoning that plan. He did clear out the Spider-Man at the top left, but a Marine is heading up over there just to get confirmation. Hey, did he actually take that base? And the answer right now is actually a resounding no, but Probe is heading that way. He is going to get caught by this Marine.
Yeah, it feels like an absolutely, like almost map hacker type situation out of Rydia. Not that I'm accusing him of that, but it's just the general map awareness. There seems to be such a difference. And I think we've seen Ebola be most comfortable when he's just focusing on attacking, right? He can do his cute little micro tricks, he can go for backstabs and stuff, and he's done a really good job of that. But when it comes to a game where both players are trying to multitask, trying to take control of the map, it just seems like Rydia has the edge.
Alright, there goes in the bottom left-hand corner, the SCV being dropped off over on that low ground. So it can mine out that one mineral, literally one mineral that blocks the command center from landing. For those who don't know, the reason for this is to prevent Terran players from just taking that as a natural or something super duper early on safely as an island base, because you can't land the command center anywhere to build an SCV and mine it out. You have to drop off an SCV to mine out that one mineral patch.
Yeah, we do see the SCV is kind of underneath the dropship here, and yeah, he's gonna mine that out. The command center will be able to land, and he can start shuttling over more workers if that's what he wants to do, if he has an excess here. Well, it looks like his saturation is at a pretty decent level. The observer's gonna come out. It should get at least get a confirmation off that his opponent.
Oh, Vulture drop in the main base once again, laying out a couple of these spider mines as well. Drop some more of these workers. The Dragoons gradually getting closer and closer to these Vultures, but still taking 50% damage with these spider mines.
Yeah, he is gonna get cleaned up once again. But I think Iridia, you know, he's ahead enough in economy that he's probably comfortable trading out with these drops, trying to harass his opponent. Ebola is only just now getting up his third base, and there's not a single unit mining on top of that.
This is becoming really problematic. If he's not able to get up that third base safely, I really don't know how he's going to be able to keep up with Iridia. Again, Protoss players tend to want to be the ones that are up in terms of their economy, and Ebola just he's been behind on bases this entire game, not up on bases. It's the exact opposite. Templar Archives is starting up into the main base. He already has a Templar Archives. I think it just goes to show you, Ebola really just not feeling great about this game right now.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he has maybe one last trick up his sleeve. I imagine if you're Ebola, you're feeling pressured to maybe end this game, which is not obviously the situation you want to be. You don't ever want to feel like you have to make one specific move to hope about winning. But it just seems like the longer this goes on, the more and more ahead Iridia is getting. I mean, his siege tank line is disgusting. I actually, like, short of getting up to carriers or something, or just like trying to develop some kind of game plan that involves never engaging the siege tanks, I don't know how Ebola ever fights this.
The one thing I could maybe see is if he had Arbiters this game, which, again, getting up to Arbiters is actually a bit of a costly endeavor. He doesn't exactly have Stargate or anything. But, I mean, some stasis could actually catch quite a few of these siege tanks. The problem is, he just isn't anywhere close to it right now, and I don't really think it's an option for him. He has to have the most phenomenal engagement of his life right now, and with just Dragoons and Zealots, yeah, they're strong. Yes, they are the basis for PvT, but I just don't see how this works right now, Joe.
Yeah, the supply advantage is in favor of Iridia as we go into this fight. The spider mines are starting to pop up, and oh god, Ebola moves out with what he's hoping is a death blow, and he backs away without doing a bit of damage. And that doesn't feel good. He's trying to muster up his forces here. The Dragoons and the Zealots, they're strong, like you said, but there's not like an angle of engagement. Iridia's just done such a good job of spreading out those spider mines, having the tank lines behind the spider mines, and having the Vultures be out to poke and kind of chip away at the shields of anything that's going to be advancing towards his own base.
Triple drop ship up in the top right-hand corner of the map, also going to be dropping into the main base. There are siege tanks in this one. There are Vultures, and there's even a Goliath in the midst of all of this to make matters worse. So this is not going to be an easy cleanup like any of those earlier pushes. You can see the entire army, or a majority of the army, is retreating all the way back up into his main base. Bullet just can't afford to do this right now, and his Sin City is going to work against him with the siege tank here.
Yeah, it's a lot of damage. I mean, the siege tanks are offering firepower from the back. It looks like Ebola has enough to eventually clean this up, but this is going to be such a costly engagement, and it's just a small drop. This is a tiny portion of Iridia's main army. Yeah, finally, one Zealot manages to get on top of this. He will eventually clean this up. I'd almost want to see Ebola pull the Dragoons back instead of taking the free damage. And now Ebola feels like he needs to move out of the map again, but look at all these Vultures that are going to be able to kite this army as it moves towards space.
Yeah, and the Vultures, while they are starting to die off pretty quickly, there's a huge number of spider mines, good distance in front of the siege tanks. Maybe has to be a little bit careful about Zealots charging on in and dragging those spider mines all the way onto the tanks. That can happen actually rather quickly, but it's still going to be very difficult to make that happen.
All right, well, once again, Ebola decides to back off here. He's looking for a next step, but it's tough to see it. He does have 2 Stargates up now. He's producing Arbiters off of him. And I think he might be looking to revel in the chaos again and go for some kind of recall into the main base.
God. This top left-hand base is actually like barely actually mining the gas because of those 2 cannons. That's delaying his mining, which again in this situation, delayed mining is the last thing that Ebola can really stand for right now. Maybe you could try. I almost wonder if just trying to get up a 4th is the correct answer in this situation. Because his Stargate, well, he has 1 Arbiter on the way.
Yeah, but now it looks like gonna eat a bunch of these spider mines is Ebola. He's trying his best. He has closed the supply gap a little bit, but as all this happens, a huge drop coming down in the main, and these vultures are gonna start chipping away at absolutely everything. Frag grenades going off on these dragoons. And I think Rydia, or rather Ebola, is forced to abandon his main, and that is not a great feeling this far into the game.
Oh god, and at the same time, the vultures moving on over the 3rd base. If you abandon your main, you lose all your production. If you abandon your 3rd, you lose all of your mining effectively. What do you have left after that, Joe? This is a game about economies and production.
Yeah, he has an army, and that's it, and it's not a great army. I think if you're Ebola, you take your army and you just try to move out. I mean, look at Rydia's bank. Ebola has to know that Rydia has this huge bank. And maybe you just try to reset the army faster than Rydia can rebuild it, because I don't think there's a recovery from this situation.
Joe, I'm going to be honest. Even the Stargate may end up falling over here. But the Arbiter does pop out and we'll be able to clean up the siege tank inside the main base. The 3rd base lost nearly all of the workers. And so did the main base. This is really looking dire right now.
Yeah, I mean, Ebola is hanging in there. He'll eventually clean that up with the Arbiter. Stargates, despite their appearance, do not burn down. That's an important thing to note. So he does still have that bit of production in his back pocket. And the supply is deceivingly close.
Okay, but here we go. We may end up seeing Ebola charge in over here. If the vultures keep sacrificing their lives and not actually buying time, this could get a little bit weird right now for Rydia, because you do still want that vulture kind of front line defensive against the zealots. There are so many zealots right now comparative to the number of vultures that, well, if the widow mines don't connect with the zealots, this is definitely actually going to open up an opportunity for Ebola.
Yeah, I mean, so far the vultures are doing a great job of buying time. We can see Rydia's starting to widen that supply gap once again. He's rallying his units out to the front. To him, I mean, it's basically a game of just not dying. If he doesn't die in the next 45 seconds, I think he's cinched the win. And it doesn't look like Ebola's in a position to move in and try to go for that jugular.
Yeah, and in the meanwhile, Rydia scans and sees one of the new bases being established over here on the right. I love that Rydia lays down the spider mines before charging on in, because now it's going to make it much more difficult for any kind of defensive measure over here. And of course, the one thing that Ebola had that we keep talking about was the army. And if he has to lose a decent chunk of the army just trying to move into these spider mines, oh, that's not going to be the best situation. But Spider-Man's actually not making the best connection. They may split up with the zealots over here.
Yeah, oh, actually trapping quite a bit of these vultures, those speed zealots, able to get on top of it pretty quickly. I think if you're Ebola right now, you just go. Like, your opponent has so many vultures, you're not going to be able to clean these up ever. And if you just ping-pong back and forth between your bases, you're just going to let Rydia do exactly what he wants to do.
Yeah, it's kind of like that feeling where you say, well, I don't think I can take on your army, so I have to get up a bigger army. Maybe if I can get to a maxed out army, I can take some miraculous engagement. Brood War is very, very difficult. Once you get those big armies, actually take a solid engagement. Even just the remax can be very difficult. The macro in Brood War is very, very difficult to pull off a lot of the times, especially after that remax situation. So maybe that's kind of what it's hoping for, but I agree. The longer he waits, the more his economy is just getting shut down, and then he invests more into workers. but he's also losing his army in the process. That's the biggest thing, is that he keeps losing his army in the process while he kills off these vultures, like you said. It's a 9k mineral bank right now for Rydia. He is hunky-dory, fine and dandy, losing any of these vultures. It's not a big deal for him at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pure mineral unit. Ebola has no bank to speak of. I think we're going to see the tap out in the next minute or so here. The other thing is, it's hard for Ebola to know quite how behind he is. You're not trying to sound mean ever, but Ebola is in a lot of trouble. And I think seeing these siege tanks, because he hasn't made it across the map in quite a while, seeing these siege tanks, I think his heart's going to just kind of sink. And I think that should be, the knowledge that he knows he's out of the game. And maybe he'll go for one last move, but it's going to be really difficult for a Protoss to make something happen here.
All right, shuttle loaded up with 2 zealots, a DT, a probe, and just a little bit of space left for a dream. But man, Joe, that's what it feels like right now. It feels like just a dream. Oh, there is a potential for a nice little flank over here, as he has some units positioned over on the right, some units positioned in the center of the map. Science vessels also leading the charge right now. Not really too helpful, but hey, this is about the best engagement you could ever ask for. You get to clean up on a ton of these siege tanks.
Yeah, the Zealots actually getting on top of everything without losing anything at all. Vultures are going to come in from the side, but this is Ebola's moment. He has to make something happen from here. You can almost see as his army and APM surge forward. He knows that was it. And as we see the last of the Dragoons fall, I think that was Ebola's best last chance to make something happen in this game.
Yeah, unfortunately, just the reinforcing wave of all the other siege tanks that realized, oh, we're moving out? Well, I didn't get the memo, but you know what? My friend Mark invited me over, so I'm gonna head on in. And hey, we found a Protoss army. Cool. Let's have a little dance. And suddenly, Ebola, his feet are feeling awfully sore right now, Joe.
Yeah. It looks like Rydia is bouncing into this final base here. The defenses are non-existent. A handful of Zealots and Dragoons. It's all over but the Cryon, as we see the Red Terran just tearing it up into his opponent's Nashra.
Yeah, really impressive play from Rydia in this series. As he just showed again, like, I think we kept talking about it. Once he gets into that comfortable situation in the mid and late game, he just looks unstoppable. He is just this macro machine, and he just plays so safe. He even has some units cleaning up that drop over on the other side of the map on the south side, but GG gets called.
Yeah,
and Rydia takes the 2-1.
Congratulations to Rydia for moving onward into our into the next stage here.
Yeah, it's I think that's still the group stages right now.
Yeah. But going in with another W under his belt as we move into next week's competition. So that is going to do it for us here at the CSL. For StarCraft Remastered, we only have one best of 3, and you can catch that best of 3 every Thursday at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific, and whatever else is in between. StarCraft 2, of course, will be coming back on Tuesday. And we will see you guys there. Thank you to our wonderful sponsor, Twitch, for helping to make all of this happen. I'm Joe. Thanks for casting with me, Fair Dragon.
Yeah, of course. It was a pleasure.
And we will see you guys next time.